Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's so good to see you. I see Stephen Jarris. He's back from Korea. Oh, he's been gone for a long time. Welcome back. Welcome back. And all of our family members who are just returning, maybe after a long trip somewhere. I see also a lot of members from LA. LA, can you stand up? Just some of our members. Yeah, welcome. I heard yesterday they had it's either a national or international tournament of Chokgu. Chokgu. Anyone know what Chokgu is? So it's a game that's popular in North Korea, and you play over kind of like a tennis net, but use your legs to kick the ball. And so, their vision and the goal as part of Peace Cup is to popularize Chokgu and have a tournament in North Korea. And so, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And so many things are happening this week. Dr. Sullivan just shared about tonight's evening program. It's from 4 o'clock. Anyone who can make it, it'd be huge, because this is a gathering. I joined last year, and people from various different faiths, Islam, Judaism, Christian, various different groups gather together in support of their faith and their belief. And it's an open forum where there's no judgment. Everyone gets to share what we believe in. And it makes a big difference when people are there and just representing and supporting. It affects the spiritual environment as well. And so if anybody can make it at 4 o'clock, Dr. Sullivan will be speaking. Let's go and represent our Heavenly Parent and our true parents there. One more thing. I also had this past week I had a dinner with Gloria, and then she encouraged this point of meeting people. Right? Many of you may know, if you look at the back of the bulletin, she's always meeting various different people. And I want to just revive that culture again here in our church. And so when we look at our bulletin, everybody just take a look at, if you have one, you might regret not getting one if you in a second. But if you look at your bulletin, in the back you see people meeting each other. Sometimes you see my face all the time because that's all the photos I have. But we try to just acknowledge times when we met each other. We're the Las Vegas Family Church. We want to encourage just getting to know each other. And so when you receive this bulletin, in this case, I see Futoshi and Sarah Hirano. The Hiranos are there. So we ask of you to just pray for whoever it is, but also if you have the time to invite them out to coffee or invite them out to just eat something together, get to know them so we can grow together as Las Vegas Family Church. And just to incentivize it, I'm not sure how often we'll continue this, but right now we're going to pick a random winner for a Starbucks gift card. I don't know how much it is, but it's a Starbucks gift card. And so how I'm going to do it, can someone just yell out a random number? Okay. Okay, I heard 11 first. I heard 11 first. And this is our Sunday bulletin, so I'm going to go to page 11. And whoever has this bulletin gets that card. And Jonte Crawford, whoever has Jonte Crawford. Oh, there you go, Catherine Medina. Come on. There you go, congratulations. I know she's in the middle of a workshop, and she can't leave Chonshimon, but you can either move here or you can, give it to Jonte to buy you guys something. Okay. All right. So hopefully, just try your best to meet with people, to talk to them. If you don't know who they are, we'll have an information desk in the future, but feel free to just contact myself, Dr. Compton, Lydia, Hannah, pretty much anyone who knows most of our members, and we can get you in contact with them as well. All right, so today I'd like to talk about cosmic harmony. Cosmic harmony. Mrs. Claudelina said she was excited because she wanted to hear about aliens. I didn't include aliens in my presentation today, but maybe they have a role to play. One interesting fact, one elder member once told me that he was in a room and he asked Father, someone asked Father, do aliens exist? Okay, I don't want this to go controversial. And the father said, yes, they do. What does that really mean? Basically, it seemed to be centered around the point of discovery. The universe is vast, the universe is wide. There are living creatures around in this world. And people call me an alien because I'm not American. So that's one of the most interesting things, you know. My status is alien. So what Father meant by alien, I don't know. But Aunt Claudelina, that's our alien bit for today. So the pursuit of cosmic harmony. I believe that, and I think many of us believe in harmony, right? Everything in this world kind of longs to get to that point of harmony. If you were in an orchestra, and let's say you had the best violinist in the world, right? Just going at it. And then the best cellist, the best pianist. Like, they're the best in the world, and they could do amazing things with it. But what would happen if they all played different things? It'd be complete chaos. Would you want to listen to it? No, we're not even designed to respond positively to something like that. Except jazz. All right, well, there you go. But once everyone in this room comes together to play a note that's harmonious, it becomes so pleasant to our ear. And in that moment, some people can describe it as just bliss, as harmony. This is the state of the world in many ways. Here, Mother shares, from the beginning, God planned to establish a world of true peace centered on our first ancestors, Adam and Eve. Had they not fallen, but grown to maturity and perfected their characters, according to God's will, they would have received God's blessing, formed a true family, and established the ideal of God's kingdom of heaven, a kingdom free from sin and suffering. See here, Holy Father Han describes that should harmony had happened in the beginning of time, this world would be free of sin and suffering. So I'd like to talk about that. Actually, I was wondering what to title this message 4 weeks ago. And really the core of it is oneness. But here, we can see that the remnant of it all is sin and suffering. And so after the fall, humanity plunged into darkness. So much so that many evangelists talk about how we shouldn't even trust our own conscience because we can't even tell right from wrong. Darkness. If you were left in this forest, where would you go? She said to the right. To the light, yeah. Thomas Sellever said that. If you were stuck in this forest, many of us might head towards where there's light. I don't think anyone will look for the darkest spot in this forest because you don't know what's lurking in there. And so throughout all this time, we've been plunged in darkness, and it's been the pursuit of oneness in this world. So I'd like to talk about this point of oneness because Mother talks a lot about be one with me, becoming one with Heavenly Parent, one with true parents. What is oneness? And I've been praying about this for the past 2 years, like I want to be one. I want to be one with God. I want to be one with true parents. First of all, how do we become one? But what exactly is oneness? I'd like to use the example of a magnet. When I was young, I'm still young, when I was littler, I remember, so while I was in Ghana, we had these, wooden tables with little compartments in them. And then one thing that a lot of us like to do is, you have these magnets. They didn't look anything like that. They're just this black brick, right? And it could break. You could break them. Some people just intentionally break them. And then one thing we do for fun is we'd put one of the half at the top and the other half at the bottom, and then, we'd move it around. And then it would move around. It's like pretty cool. In that moment, someone might say, although those are two different pieces, can you say that the magnets are one? In many ways, you can say that because they move in harmony. Wherever one goes, the other goes, right? And actually, recently, it's actually not so recent, almost a decade ago, there was a thing called quantum entanglement. Anyone ever heard of that? Yeah, quantum entanglement is just, we're talking about small quantum particles, right? And scientists have noticed that certain particles are connected through time and space. So much so that whenever this particle moves in any way, this particle responds, no matter how far you put them. And so, thinking about that, it gives me a perspective of what is oneness really? When we look at each other, not very often do we just talk about one eye over the other eye, do we? In fact, if we do, that means there's something going on, right? Maybe you're hurt in the eye, or there's an illness or whatnot. You got a pink eye in one eye. Well, for the most part, in the ideal sense, our eyes move together. Our eyes are one. Our eyes are harmonious. So, this point of oneness stretches beyond just individual. Because I could look at Elliot and tell, hey, Elliot has two eyes. But you zoom out a little bit, and then you see one person with those two eyes. And then maybe, when Elliot receives the blessing, Aju, hopefully, when you see him and you see your spouse, hopefully you can see them as a unit, as one, right? That's something I could work on a lot more. But hopefully so. And then we have the unit of family. And very commonly we have this national pride, this identity, this oneness that comes about whenever we're in a World Cup or something. But when you zoom further out, we are part of this earth, right? If aliens and Claudelina were to come, they would see us as one, these people, this world. And when we zoom out, we'll get there. When we zoom out, it's this cosmos. So, in thinking about what is oneness really, I had to think a little bit about what actually separates things. Right now, we don't go into, nobody talks about the one cell in me and my kidney. We don't talk about that so much, right? It all, in one way, shape, or form, because it's harmonious with who I am, it's one with me. There's oneness happening because of that relationship of harmony. Does that make sense? So, oneness, when I thought about it and prayed about it, it signified more the harmony of everything as being part of a whole. So, the baby, recently, we've been going fundraising at various shops for the garden, and Ari has this little baby girl, right? You know what happens when you remove the girl from the mother? She cries and starts running back, right? It actually made me think a lot about our relationship with God. It's a child is so pure and so innocent that they can't survive without their parent. And that seems like a small stage in our life, but as we get older, we feel more independent. And as a result of it, we stray far away from our parents, sometimes denying our own parents. But God's hope and God's dream is realize that we call the microcosm, is realize that small situation where we can all become one with God as our parent. And so various different religions talk about oneness. And actually the pinnacle of most religions is this oneness with all things. In Hinduism, it reads like, when the Kundalini energy rises to and blooms this 1,000-petaled lotus, it signifies the end of duality. The separation between the individual self, I, and the universe dissolves. So you reach this state called Sahasrara, right? That's the pinnacle in Hinduism. When we go into Islam, it says for a Sufi, so Sufism in the Islamic faith, the ultimate shukr, that's gratitude, is fana, annihilation. When the ego is annihilated, there is nothing left but the recognition of God as the sole source of all actions, all beings, and all blessing. And so we are one with God. All our actions should be a part of God. In Buddhism, we talk about nirvana, right? Nirvana is the state of perfect peace that arises when this illusion of self is extinguished. By seeing that you are not a separate, fixed entity, but rather a flowing part of an interconnected, ever-changing universe, all resistance stops. You achieve a profound equanimity and compassion. That's a state of nirvana. In Judaism, it's called, I can't pronounce it, someone can help me later. Divakut is clinging. It's a state of being so aware of this divine presence that your will and God's will operate as one. You don't dissolve, you become a perfect partner with God. You experience cosmic harmony by walking, eating, and breathing in a constant, joyful communion with the divine source of all reality, sensing God's hand in every atom and every event. So we're talking about pinnacle states. You know, in Christianity, it's a little bit more theological, but when you reach a state called theosis, it says the soul is placed in the fire. At first, it's dark and smoky, but as it heats up, it begins to glow until it is indistinguishable from the fire itself. It is still wood, but it has taken on the properties of the fire. In this state of union, the soul is so filled with God's love that it sees the entire cosmos through God's eyes, a universe overflowing with divine love. And this is very common. It's common in the stories of the martyrs, someone like Teresa of Avila being burnt at the stake, experiencing theosis where she could only feel joy because she was one with all things. So oneness is something that all these faiths that have come about over thousands of years, over eons, have come to understand that we are not just us. That our ultimate goal is to become one with all things. Our ultimate goal is to become one with God. And Mother describes this oneness, what does it look like? As one in heart, one in will, one in thought, and one in action. And we'll talk about this a little later. But oneness, if you're wondering what it looks and feels like, is this oneness in heart, oneness in will, oneness in thought, and oneness in action. In our body, we all have millions, if not billions, of cells. And they're constantly dividing, right? They're constantly moving, working for us. What happens when one or a number of cells are not one with you? What happens when their will is not one with you? What happens when their thought and their actions are not one with you? Problems arise. You might develop a tumor somewhere. And then we notice it because it comes out of this oneness. And we try to get rid of it. Oneness is when everything come together and all these things listed here. That's way too long, I'm not gonna read it. John 17, 21, 23, Jesus says, that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I'll read it again. All be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. Jesus says, the Father is within me. When you see me, you see the Father. And he calls all of us, reconciling all of us back to this body of, we talk about the body of Christ, being one with God. That is the goal, for us to be one, And you may ask the question, why should we be one? Why is this important? Why should we even talk about this point? Mother says, the path to uniting the world is through teaching the fundamental essence. In other words, we must help people come to know God and understand God's hope and dream. As God is our creator and the owner of the universe, no true solution can be achieved without knowing God. You can be the best violinist in the world, but if you play out of the harmony of the orchestra, it's not pleasant. It's not what people want to hear. There is no true solution that can come about without us being cognizant of and being one with God. There are many in this world who very nobly work towards peace, very nobly long for a world that's better. But Mother is saying here very clearly that if we do not understand the fundamental essence of this world, if we do not know God's hope and dream, there is no true solution, that we won't end up where we ought to. And so this is why we talk about oneness. It also says, within the family, God's second blessing for humankind, human beings are to become God's living embodiments, united with God in heart and substance, and attain the ideal of perfect freedom, happiness, and peace. It is then that they emerge as masters of true love, whom the entire universe welcomes. This is God's third blessing for humankind. So here it says, when we become one, the living embodiments united with God, that's when we experience perfect freedom, perfect happiness, and perfect peace. When we hear the story of Adam and Eve, when we hear that story, what is clearly written is that, and I should have put us in there, Adam and Eve acted at the wrong time. Adam and Eve, it's doing the thing you can do, you're given to do, but at the wrong time. And so, God longs for us to be able to have everything. God longs for us to be able to experience all things, longs for us to be stewards of all of creation. He longs for us to be free, to be happy, to be peaceful. But if we can't understand the essence of God, if we can't unite with that point, we can never experience it. It's like going into playing a video game. And then the rule states that in order for you to throw a fireball, you have to meditate for 10 seconds. And then you decide to not meditate for 10 seconds. You can't be free. You can't do the things that you long to do. There are principles. There are principles that govern this universe. And so God longs for us to be able to experience this perfect freedom, this perfect happiness, and perfect peace. Last night we had a talk. I was talking to the middle school and high schoolers about, in Ilsham, about the 4 realms of heart. And then the topic about brother-sister relationships came up. And I asked them, is it wrong for a man to be with a woman? Is it? No. But why is it that when we're younger, we advise to be cautious about exclusivity between a boy and a girl? It's a matter of maturity. It's a matter of timing. So when we are able to focus on this point of being one with Heavenly Parent, being one with true parents, we receive the blessing. What happens is that the world is your oyster. Because all the love that flows is not just about you, it's about channeling Heavenly Parent's love to said person. And so, if you come together not centered on that point, centered just on yourself, it starts to corrode. Because all of a sudden, your spouse, your supposed to be eternal partner, your love for him, your love for her, when it's just centered on yourself, what happens when you cease to feel this love or joy from it? It ends. But if it's connected with all things, if it's connected with the very essence of love, which is God, it can flow and life can come to be. So, Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Why are we living our lives? We wake up each morning, maybe wash our face, get out the door, maybe go to school, maybe study, maybe work. Why are we living each day? All of us know, we all know, the one thing we can't escape in life is death. One day we're all going to go. This is certain, right? There's a 100% chance, according to our observations so far. Yeah, that means someone can break that. We all know that. We know that there's going to come a time when our physical body will cease to function. But how do we live our day knowing that? For some, 70 years down the line, for some 50 years down the line, this might come to you. If you knew that tomorrow you'd be going into a different world, what would you do today? How many of you will keep studying for your exam that you have tomorrow? Some of you would just drop that right away. Of course, the world continues, and we have faith that there is a tomorrow. But we need to understand what is most important. Why are we doing what we do? We say we're doing something, but Jesus hears that for apart from me, you can do nothing. Nothing. Because what would it matter in the grand scheme of things? That you went out and you spent 3 hours searching for a Calvin Klein shirt because you were showing up to a birthday party or whatnot. What does it matter? Let's focus our heart and our minds on doing what matters. What matters? Doing things that are in line with this cosmic harmony. They're in line with all things as they flow. So question is, how? How? The only begotten daughter, true mother, words of true parents. The book, it says, Adam and Eve were to demonstrate absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience before God to stand in the position in which they would receive God's blessing. Yet personal desires arose along the way. How do we achieve oneness? Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. I really like this Bible verse because it says, in all your ways acknowledge him. So, it's not saying don't do certain things, but in everything that you do, acknowledge God. So, I'd like to give an example of this. Actually, in a second I will. Galatians 5:16 says, but I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. when we walk in this path of trying to be one with Heavenly Parent, trying to be one with true parents, trying to be one with ourselves, what happens is that a lot of our own problems cease to exist. I know day in, day out, we're all fighting. We're fighting something within us, saying maybe you have to wake up because you have to go to this thing or go to that thing. Maybe you have to study because you have an exam. Maybe you have to finish this project because you have a program tomorrow you have to run. Day in, day out, we all have these things that we're fighting. And for some things, it may seem so hard to conquer. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's desire and lust. Maybe. And you try so hard to use your own willpower to overcome it, and you fail time and time again. And I'm telling you that in order to be victorious, all you have to do is surrender to God, and the Holy Spirit will help you. Will help you be victorious. God is asking you to ask for help. He says, but I say, walk by my Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. And so when we try to do all things with Heavenly Parent, try to do everything with true parents, our life becomes simpler. We stop fighting certain things in life, and we become one with all things. Of course, this requires a certain level of sacrifice. But if you have any challenge in your life today, please invite God into it. And make sure that your will and your desire is not centered just on yourself. That what you do is for the whole. Romans 7:24, this is Paul's lamentation, right? Oh, wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Who will deliver me is Jesus Christ. He lamented that by his own doing he couldn't change anything. By his own doing he couldn't be reborn. And so, God longs for us to be masters of creation. However, the question is, why do we do what we do? I put this up here, 2 + 2 = 4, right? Okay, you guys are acting like I'm wrong. 2 + 2 = 4. What does this mean? Of course, 2 + 2 = 4. I like to use as an example. Let's say 4 is the goal. We're trying to get to 4. And 4 is the state where you are absolutely happy, absolutely one with all things. 4 is the state where you come to live each moment in joy, in gratitude. 4 is the state where when you go out to work, you are happy. God's energy and love emanates through you. You're able to work for the sake of people. 4 is that state where when you're studying, it's tied to your purpose, where you're going, where you're headed, what you're doing, your meaning today in this world. 4 is that state. Sometimes we think in order to get to 4, it's just 2 + 2. Maybe in order to feel one with God, we need to go and start praying. We need to start reading scripture. We need to love. And that's true. That is how you get to 4. You can also get to 4 by 3 + 1, right? Whatever that means to you. And for some, 5 - 1. Certain things have to be taken away from you. You have to let go of certain things in your life. Getting to 4, getting to the kingdom is different for each and every one of us. God didn't make everybody to be lawyers. God didn't make everyone to be doctors. God didn't make everyone to be preachers. God didn't make everyone to be plumbers. In building this kingdom, we need everybody. Everybody in the way God created each and every one of us. So it's up to us to come to recognize who we are and where we're at. For some of us, we need to take steps forward in acts of faith, steps forward in acts of belief. And for some of us, it's taking a step back from certain things in our lives. And also, it's not enough to be sincere. I think sometimes we talk about, as long as you're sincere, as long as you're sincere. I once heard the question, what is good and what is evil? And then the lecturer gave the answer, what is good is what's in line with heaven's direction. What is evil is what is away from heaven's direction. So it's not just enough to be sincere. When I was in high school, this is my junior year, we had a basketball game. We went to this other school. And then one of our basketball players, his name was Robert. Robert was a great basketball player. He hadn't played with our team for a long time because he was always playing with another school's team because their school team was better. It was just fine. We weren't that great. I'll admit. So Robert was a good player, amazing. He was tall, lanky, very skilled. He could shoot. He could do all things. So there was one game we had was a friendly match after the basketball season ended, and Robert could play with us. So we were excited. Oh, Robert's here. And in basketball, you start off by the tip-off, right? So you have one person from each team. The referee throws the ball, and then you push it to either one of your side. So the tip-off begins. Robert is our tip-off guy. You know, he's the top. Referee blows the he throws the ball. Robert jumps. He catches the ball. He dribbles the ball, and he goes and he scores. Right on our hoop. On our basket. He was so passionate. He thought he was so amazing that nobody was moving. Like, he just went straight for it, and we started the game with 2 points against us. So, it was an interesting moment for me. Actually, we weren't angry, we were just confused. But I know Robert was so sincere. No, this was his first game playing with our team. He wanted to, do his best. But he went the wrong way. He went the wrong way, and it cost us. We ended up losing by a whole lot more than 2. But my point is, sincerity alone is not enough. We need to move in the direction of heaven. We need to move in a manner that's in line with all things. With all things. So, each day, each moment, how do we know what to do or what is cosmically harmonious in our doings? And I'd like you to ask your questions in those moments when you have that question. What's the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? And just do that. Do that. Following your conscience. We read earlier that the way in which we can become one with Heavenly Parent and true parents is through absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience. And this might seem a bit hard and difficult, and it might sound like blind faith, right? Blind obedience. But in practicing absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience, it's trusting that God has your best interest at heart. It's trusting that what you do in faith, in obedience to God, will bring about something much greater than you ever imagined. That is the purpose of this oneness. I remember before I was matched with Hannah, some of you may remember Dr. Young. He wanted to find me a match. That was an interesting time in my life. So about 2 years I was avoiding any confrontation about it. And then one day we had a meeting and we had a 15-minute break and he got me. He's like, hey, Resfred, come here. He was sharing a whole bunch he asked me to share some things like where am I at, what am I looking for, all that kind of stuff. And then he shared and then he told me, oh, I have someone in mind for you. Oh boy. I remember going home and just struggling internally because my heart was to unite, absolutely. I was like, he's our able figure. And so to trust. But also, my heart was a bit perturbed. Like, what if whoever is recommended for me it's not something that will be naturally harmonious, to say the least. So I remember that afternoon, I was just a bit worried, like, oh my God. But because actually my heart was going to say yes, no matter what, but I was just struggling. But then it hit me in that moment. He's like, wait a minute. God knows what I need, and God knows what I want. So if I just trust in God, everything will come to be. And sometimes things at face value may not look like what you want. But if you follow, some of you are laughing. Maybe you're remembering your matching stories. So, may not look like what you want, but if you can trust that heaven is working. Last week we talked about in all things give thanks, right? So if you can trust that heaven is working, that very thing that's right in front of you that you may not be able to see how it benefits you becomes the greatest blessing you'll ever have in your life. And if you can believe that, you will attain true happiness, true freedom. I forget the last word. True peace in your life. We sang the song today and it talked about God is calling us home. God is calling us home. I know we all have our own different living situations. Some we own our own houses, some renting, some living with others in a dormitory, some living with 15 other boys inside of one room. We all have our own situation. But we share this home. And God is just calling us to come back. Come. Just come. And if you come, everything will be made for you. Everything you ever dreamed of, everything you ever longed for will be right there. And most importantly, everything you need. Everything you need to grow. Everything you need to become a true child of God. A true child of a heavenly parent. Think about it. We all have a different role to play. Some of us are on clarinet. Some of us are on violin. Some of us on the cello, some on the piano. Some of us are on the tambourine. But no matter what you have, even if it's a tambourine, you got to play it. Play it like your life depends on it. And play it in harmony with this cosmic orchestra. Because when we do, something beautiful will come to be. And that is the kingdom of heaven. Thank you.